I call the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I, for the reasons outlined by my friend and colleague Ruth Dyson, will speak for a relatively short time as well. I want to thank her for her able chairing of the Select Committee, to thank the previous Speaker for the work he also did on that Select Committee, and to contrast the attitude of most of the submitters at that Select Committee with my experience chairing a Select Committee on a similar subject 27 years ago. There is, when I was 17, says Ruth. Mr. Speaker, earlier as opposed to the midpoint of my career. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that the winds of change have blown. They have moved us a very, very long way, and that is reflected not only in society's attitude over the period of time, but the attitude of members of Parliament and the public as they have taken part in this debate. And, Mr. Speaker, it is enormously different. There are a few of my colleagues who were there at the time, but the attitude from one side of Graham Lee, John Banks and Norman Jones was appalling. It was absolutely shocking and revolting. Mr. Speaker, some of the people who spoke for the legislation weren't that flash either. Trevor DeClean, I think of, whose main thrust was just don't make it compulsory, I think was the line that Trevor DeClean took. But, Mr. Speaker, I was proud at that time, at the third reading, to be the teller for the ayes and to come out and to put 5 fingers in the air, because that was the margin that we got. Times have changed. Mr. Speaker, I now am going to surprise some people by saying that I have a lot in common with the position that Tim McIndoe got to. Mr. Speaker, I think actually the state has almost no role in marriage. My view is actually if everyone had a civil union or went to the state and got a bit of paper and said you are married and then went off to their church, or if they wanted to dance round a fire on the beach and have whatever appropriate celebration of that new relationship that they wanted to, then that would be the best approach. But, Mr. Speaker, I have canvassed colleagues, and what became clear to me is that the winds of change have not quite blown that far yet, and colleagues in the House do feel that the state has a role in marriage, and if that is to be the case, then in my view it has to be equal for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, I move that